In December 1943, during the height of the Second World War, graffiti written in chalk appeared across the West Midlands using the words, "Who put Bella in the witch elm?" They all appeared to have been written by the same person. You can still even see this type of graffiti today. So what happened, and what is this curious case all about that is still being debated today? With theories of Nazi spies and the occult, this is Vintage Murders and the mystery of who put Bella in the witch elm. On the 18th of April 1943, 4 local boys, Robert Hart, Thomas Willits, Bob Farmer and Fred Payne, were poaching and looking for birds' eggs in Hagley Woods, part of the Hagley estate belonging to Lord Cobham, near the village of Witchbury Hill, which lies between Kidderminster and Birmingham. They were on the land illegally and would have been in trouble if caught. They came across a large wych elm, a native tree, and thinking the location to be a particularly good place to search for birds' nests. Farmer attempted to climb the tree to investigate. As he climbed, he glanced down into the hollow trunk, and when he was poking around, discovered a skull. At first he thought it came from an animal, but after seeing hair and teeth, he realized he had found the remains of a person. As they were on the land without permission, and scared if they had been discovered, Farmer put the skull carefully back where he had found it, and all 4 boys ran home, agreeing not to mention to anybody their discovery. On returning home, the youngest of the boys, Willits, felt uneasy about what he had seen, and decided to tell his parents about the find. When police checked the trunk of the tree, they found an almost complete skeleton. The skull was valuable evidence in that it still had some tufts of hair and had a clear dental pattern, despite some missing teeth. The odd thing was that her right hand was missing. After further searching, the remains of the hand were found some distance from the tree. The body was sent for forensic examination by the Birmingham-based Home Office pathologist James Webster. He quickly established that it was of a female who had been dead for at least 18 months, placing time of death on or before October 1941. The skeleton was of a 5-foot-high woman with brown hair, wearing a dark blue knitted cardigan, a cloth skirt with a zip, and blue crepe solid shoes. She also had a gold wedding ring. The odd thing was that her right hand was missing. The local pathologist concluded that the woman was about 35 years of age and had been pregnant at least once. Webster also discovered a section of taffeta in her mouth, suggesting that she had died from suffocation. From the measurement of the trunk in which the body had been discovered, he also deduced that it must have been placed there while the body was still warm after the killing, as it could not have fit once rigor mortis had set in. Police could tell from items found with the body what the woman had looked like, but with so many people reported missing during the Second World War, records were not too numerous for a proper identification to take place. They cross-referenced the details they had with reports of missing persons throughout the region, but none of them seemed to match the evidence. In addition, they contacted dentists in the area since the dentistry was quite distinctive. She left no clues, but the police were hopeful that the dental records would reveal her identity, especially as she had crooked teeth. She had received some dental work, and some of her teeth were missing. The police realized that 2 phone calls were made to them in late 1941, with reports of a woman's screams coming from Hagley Woods by a businessman and a schoolteacher individually, which was investigated by the police with no result. It now tallied with the report from the pathologist. As this was the middle of the war, The whole country was on the move as a result of bombing, conscription, evacuation of children, and so finding a missing person was going to prove difficult. The police tried their best by contacting all dentists in England in the hope that she was one of their patients. This was to no avail, as dental records did not reveal her identity, and no one answering her description was recorded. The shoes were unusual. Remarkably, the police managed to track all but 6 pairs, and the source was a market stall in Dudley, but the seller kept no records. It looked hopeless, and the police file was soon closed. But someone wanted to keep the case alive, and the graffiti started to appear months after the discovery of the body. Who put Bella in the Wych Elm was chalked up around the West Midlands. A sex worker in Birmingham claimed that another worker called Bella, who worked the Hagley Road area, had disappeared in 1941. Despite wartime conditions, the police tried to find the missing woman, who matched the height of the victim, and were called Bella. Again to no avail, and again the police file was closed. It has been claimed that Czech-born Gestapo agent Joseph Jacobs, captured by the Home Guard in 1941, had parachuted into the Midlands, but he had landed badly and injured his leg. He was caught by the Home Guard carrying £500 and a German sausage. MI5 were furious with the Home Guard, who had published an account of their success in the local paper, as the security service had wanted complete secrecy about the incident. He gave interrogators a picture of Clara Bauer, a German actress and cabaret singer. He claimed she was not some kind of girlfriend, but a fellow agent who was going to be parachuted into the Birmingham area. He was caught before she could reach England. She had been chosen for the mission because she had worked in Birmingham before. She had spent 2 years working in West Midlands music halls and had mastered a Brummie accent. Clara had been recruited by the Gestapo and, with Jacobs, was given the job of creating a spy cell in England. The pair never made contact. Strangely, there was no showbiz record of Clara, no films, billboards or record of engagements that exist after spring 1941. She simply disappeared. Jacobs was executed by firing squad on the 15th of August 1941, being the last man to be put to death at the Tower of London. The sentence was preceded by an MI5 tongue-lashing for the Dad's Army members who had captured him. The world and his wife knew of his arrest on account of the inability of the Home Guard to keep their mouths shut, MI5 said. There is one thing beyond argument. Detectives attempting to solve the crime hit a wall of silence. There were a number of holes in his story. The photograph shows Clara was a tall woman and was nearly 6 feet against 5 feet for the victim. A parachute was never found, and the silk in those days was prized by everyone. And besides, she died in a Berlin hospital on the 11th of December 1942 of a lung infection. In 1953, Wilfred Byford Jones, who was a journalist for the Wolverhampton Express and Star, and wrote an article regarding the mysterious murder, had received a letter from someone called Anna on November the 18th, 1953. Anna was really Una Hainsworth, and previously had been married some years earlier to Jack Mossop. Around December, she made a statement to the police at a meeting at the Dick Whittington pub in Kinber, accompanied by Byford Jones. It went as follows. I was married to Jack Mossop in 1932. It was in 1940 that a man named Van Ralt came to our house at number 39 Barrow Road, Kenilworth. I believe he was Dutch, and as far as I know, he had no particular job, and I have a suspicion that he was engaged in some work that he did not want to talk about. But in my opinion, it might have been that he was a spy, for he had plenty of money, and there were times that my husband appeared to have plenty of money after meeting him. It was either in March or April 1941 that my husband came home and was noticeably white and agitated. This was about 1 a.m. in the morning, and he asked me for a drink. I made a comment that I thought he had had enough, as he had been out all day, and I gave him a drink. He then said he had been to the Littleton Arms with Van Ralt and a Dutchwoman, and that she had become drunk and awkward. My husband was driving the car, which belonged to Van Ralt. She got in beside him. Van Ralt was in the back, and then she fell over in front of my husband, and he said to Van Ralt that she had passed out. Van Ralt told him where to drive, and they went to a wood and stuck her in a hollow tree. I had no knowledge whatever of the Hagley murder until an article appeared in the Express and Star. Neither had I read anything before which could in any way be connected with the incident, and it was not until I am reading the article and bearing in mind the possible date that I in any way am connected with this. The police made the journalist swear not to release any information, so as not to impede any investigation. Jack's drinking had got worse, and he was becoming increasingly odd in his behaviour, with recurrent nightmares of a woman in a tree. Una eventually left him at the end of 1941. He was admitted to a mental institution in 1942, and died later that year. The mystery had endured because of sporadic outbreaks of graffiti in the area, the first appearing 6 months after the body was found. Each scrawled message asks the same question: who put Bella in the wych elm? The murder could be seen as ritualistic and had all the hallmarks of a satanic ceremony. The crime scene mirrored an ancient ceremony known as the Hand of Glory, where bones are scattered to the wind. A hand had been severed, and a wad of taffeta wedged in the victim's mouth. Bones from one of her arms had been left 13 yards from the skeletal remains, an ancient custom used when a witch is executed. The choice of tree was also significant. Wych elm plays an important part in the occult. The theory was intensified following the murder of Charles Walton in February 1945 on nearby Meon Hill. He was found skewered to the ground by a pitchfork, and Satanism was suspected by some. Locals remained tight-lipped when approached by the police. Despite the strange circumstances surrounding Bella's death, the case soon faded from the minds of Hagley's residents, preoccupied with World War II. But someone was determined not to let her memory rest. 6 months after the woman's body was found, graffiti asking who put Bella in the wych elm appeared on an abandoned building near Hagley Wood. The ominous chalky letters provided authorities with their first potential clue on the woman's identity. Her name was Bella. Rumours swirled around over whether the scrawled letters may have been written by the murderer or an ex-lover, but, like so much else with the investigation, the name soon proved a dead end, and the case went cold. The idea the woman may have been a spy is another odd twist in the case. The theory goes that Bella may have been linked to a German spy ring operating in Birmingham on a vague mission of cross-country espionage. There were munitions factories scattered across the Midlands at the time, and knowledge about these locations may have been valuable to England's enemies. Meanwhile, supernatural explanations have also plagued the case. The body was reported to have been found in a wych elm, a place used to ward off evil in old wives' tales. This convinced renowned archaeologist and anthropologist Margaret Murray the case had the hallmarks of witchcraft. She reportedly travelled to the Midlands in the 1950s to investigate another crime, with supposed occult origins, the murder of farmer Charles Walton, who was stabbed and pinned to the ground with a pitchfork, before hearing about the Hagley Wood case. The very act of placing a body in the hollow of a tree is associated with witchcraft, she is quoted as saying. The cult of tree worship is an ancient one, and it is linked with sacrifice. The occult theory was a popular one and endures to this day. But it could be a bit of a red herring and overlooks the true tragedy of the crime. It is possible if the occult was involved in some way, when it came to Bella, the alternative would be to stuff the still warm corpse in the trunk of the witch elm. This procedure would have meant that the evil spirits could not escape the tree. Certain pre-Christian societies certainly practiced this belief. This could explain the reason for the existence of a near-complete skeleton in the tree and a missing right hand found 13 yards from it. Interest in this theory was aroused by the murder of Charles Walton, who was scything a hedge in a place called Lower Quinton, which is 40 miles southeast of Hagley Woods. He had been pitchforked to death on St. Valentine's Day 1945. In 1875, in the same village, a woman called Anne Tennant was also pitchforked to death. It was rumoured that she was some kind of a witch. In the case of Walton, circumstantial evidence pointed to Alfred Potter, who was owed money by the victim. As for Anne Tennant, blame was levelled at a local called James Hayward. Part of why the Hagley Woods mystery has endured for so many years is due to the sporadic outbreaks of graffiti across the Midlands that continue to ask, who put Bella in the witch elm? Police believe the initial scrawlings were all written by the same person, but they have never been identified. The search for the killer or killers of Bella, if indeed that is her name, still remains an unsolved mystery to this day, and the murky reasons behind it.